Hello, my beautiful broken family. I'm so grateful for all you guys tuning in tonight. I'm your host, Brittany Mahan. We're doing things a little bit different on tonight's show. Usually I have a co-host, Kylie or Lucas, but tonight these stories are just starting to get really personal to my heart. And I just think we need more time in the 50 minutes, however long this show is, to really get to the core of these people and how they impacted me. Tonight we have Jasmine Scott and Jeanette, Jasmine and Jeanette, their mother and daughter, and Jasmine is my absolute best friend. She has been there for me since I went through some really dark times, and she was the one I went to. She was the one I cried for. We went on a road trip to Florida. She's just that person in my life for me that we could go months, weeks, years without talking, which we don't, but if we did, I know I could call her, I could talk to her, I could show up anywhere, anytime, and she would be there to help me in a heartbeat. And I just don't think friendships like that are common nowadays. And it's honestly super sad. You know, you have friends that you think love you, and then when, stuff hits the fan, they're nowhere to be found. And I can say honestly and sincerely that when I look at Jasmine Scott, I know she loves me, and I love her more than I think I ever could love a friend in my life. And I had really bad luck with girlfriends growing up. So for her to be the incredible soul that she is to me, I'm so grateful for. So before we get things started, I wanted to say a couple announcements. So Beautiful Broken is starting a clothing line. Very excited about it. I made a sweatshirt just as like an example to see if people would be interested in the merchandise, and I got awesome feedback. So we are going to make hats, sneakers, pants, shirts, tank tops. I made face masks that a lot of people actually want, so we're going to be doing an order of those. So if you have any ideas or if you want something specific, just, message us, DM us on Instagram. It's beautifulbroken.tv, and I will be able to do all that for you. Also tonight, if you want to say anything, if you want to jump in on this conversation, just comment below. If everyone can do me a favor, if you're watching this right now, just hit the like button, hit the share button, because this story is going to want to be heard throughout the world. All right, we're going to go to a little commercial break, and when we come back, we'll talk to Jasmine and Jeanette.
Dear younger self, you are beautiful. You are capable.
Hey, look, it's those guys.
What's good? What's up? What's happening today?
Let's do those pearly whites, man.
Yeah! The boys, check it. Yeah.
Stand up, do my chair is gonna compare us. Go.
Ooh, cute.
Are you good to try?
I'm fine.
Hey girl, what's up? What's the name? What's good? What's up?
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Sir, go and step out of the vehicle for me.
Sir. See ya, buddy. Today Sean's got a hearing. We'll see how it goes. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
All right, everybody, welcome back. I was just explaining the merchandise that we're going to get, and before, all that stuff happened, we will get right to Jasmine and Jeanette. But before I bring them in, I have all my guests kind of do a voiceover that I like to put over a video, because a lot of people do judge people based off the way they look. And I'm just so sick of that. I think it's super immature. Like, how do you not judge somebody based off how they treat others? If that is not the way you judge people, then like, what are you judging them on? Just the way they look? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So I have Jasmine say something from her heart, and I put, just normal people over it. And let's check out. It's a letter to her younger self.
Dear younger self, you are beautiful. You are capable. You are strong. I know things feel so overwhelming right now. I know the world seems dark and cold, and it seems like no one understands you. Sometimes you don't even understand yourself. But you will grow and flourish out of all of this, and in greater ways than you could ever imagine. You are going to brighten the world with your natural gifts and welcome your authentic self. You will work hard, and together with the universe, your life will align with your purpose. Stay faithful and never give up. You are beautiful, you are capable, and you are strong. Love, Jasmine.
Oh, hello, my favorite ladies.
Hi.
Hello. So let me just explain to everyone how awesome that video was, because literally, like, I saw Jasmine because it was one of our best friend's birthday, and then I was like, Jasmine, I really need that video. And she's like, okay, I'll get it to you. And I was just feeling kind of in like a rut, and I was like, oh, I don't know, like, you just kind of get in a slump sometimes. And then Jasmine sent me that voiceover, and I'm crying trying to make this video. I was like, this is so good.
Me too.
So basically, I want to give you guys the floor. Thank you for joining me today. You two are so special to me in so many ways. Jeanette, you always have a smile on your face, and you are literally the funniest person I've ever met. And Jasmine, you just have never not given up. When I say someone supports their family through thick and thin, Jasmine is like Hercules and Wonder Woman put into one person. Like, I don't even understand it.
Oh my God.
So, Jeanette, let's start with you, and let's talk about, the beginning of Jasmine.
The beginning of Jasmine, and then there was Jasmine. Oh my God. The best news in my life was when I found out that I was pregnant, and oh God, what can I say? Raising her as a little girl, the cutest thing ever was just going into the doctor's office, and they would say, oh, she's advanced for her age, and hearing things like that was always great. And seeing her, kindergarten, just, always wanting to be around other kids and always helping them, even at a very young age. I could see that in her, and it just blows my mind every single day. But she has grown into one of the most amazing, inspiring, influential, kind-hearted people. Best humanitarian on this world, hands down.
Oh my God.
I agree. I agree though.
Am I right?
100%. I'm like, okay. What would Jasmine do? What would Jasmine do?
Yeah. Put her, on your right shoulder, Jasmine, on your left shoulder, Jeanette. You'll be good.
Jasmine, what was growing up from your perspective life? Because so Jasmine, just a little background for everybody out there. She grew from a single mother, but they also live with their grandmother. So it was a lady's house. And that was kind of their story. So Jasmine, from your perception, what was growing up with your mama like?
Well, I mean, I think you definitely started off with the most important detail, is that it's always been my mom, myself, and my grandmother. The 3 generations. My mom's an only child. I'm an only child, or at least I have another sister. But as for my mom, like, I'm her only child. So it's always been a very estrogen-driven, women's power, we don't need no man type attitude in my house. But I think growing up is hilarious because everybody's families has different dynamics, but I always felt like my mom and my grandmother were like more of my sisters, or like my roommates even. Like, I never, not that I don't respect them, I have the utmost respect for them, but as for like our relationship, we've always been close, like sisters and like friends, as opposed to feeling like they are older than me, so they're smarter than me and I'm inferior or something like that. And that, I think that's definitely why I am the way I am. My mom always treated me with respect and with trust, and treated me like an adult and made me feel important and worthy, and that my voice was meant to be heard. And so from a young age, I started speaking up, and I started interacting with people. I was never afraid to interact with adults or anything like that, because for me, that's just how I was raised and what I was taught to do. But they've always been the most supportive people. And a while ago, me and you were hanging out, and you asked me, like, Jasmine, like, how are you so positive? Like, how you've been through so much in your life? Like, how do you stay positive? And my mom has totally just taught me the importance of gratitude and of living a life of being grateful for what we have and thankful and giving back. And so when you have that type of mindset, even when hard things come, you stop and you remember all the things that you do have and what you're grateful for and stuff. And it really helps keep me going every day, for sure.
Yeah. What was it about growing up with your mom and your Nana? What was the biggest lesson okay, so for all you out there who don't know Jasmine, she does it all. Like, she makes 150,000 meals for children who need food. I tell people what you do, Jasmine, because it's so much.
Oh my God. I mean, it's definitely been a journey, for sure. But I mean, right now I work as a family advocate, which is similar to a social work role. I work at Head Start, which is a preschool for low-income families. So I help support families find resources, whether the family needs food, housing, clothing, a job. Like, I try to support them in different areas. But right now with COVID, everything that's going on, really, I can't do as much of my job as I used to, just like trying to connect families with resources that exist. And we've been getting food donations, so doing food distribution. So actually, very literally, I just ran home from packing like hundreds of bags of food for people. And my car is full of food right now. I didn't even get to take the food out of my car yet because I was trying to log on to this really fast. But I mean, again, like, it's all from my mom. I've learned that helping people makes me feel really good. So that's why I do it.
Well, I gotta ask Jeanette about Nana, because what is going on? Where did she spread the love?
Oh, Lord. Yeah, thank God for her. I have to say, being a single mother is, when I came into, that situation, it was like, wow, okay, you know what? Typically, with a lot of single moms out there, you'd have to then go into a shelter, et cetera, et cetera. And just knowing that she was there to support me, she said, I'm here to support you. Don't worry about it. We can do this together. I was working 2 or 3 jobs. She was there for the first moments, when she first took that first step, when she first got onto the school bus, she always said, Mom, I want to go on the cool bus, And I didn't get a chance to see those things, but my mom did. And I am forever thankful to her because she was there for her. And I'm so thankful, because not everyone has that opportunity. And I know daycare is expensive. I know babysitting is expensive. So I always taught Jasmine to be grateful. Gratitude always comes first before anything else.
That's why I loved and wanted you guys on this show was because, like, obviously I'm a weirdo, and like as soon as I get in people's families, I'm like, why is it working and where's the love? And I gotta like dissect it. And so I like got into your family, and I was like, this is a house that of just like strong, powerful women, and they just passed the torch down. Like it was, you know, you were close with your mom and she supported you. Then you were close with Jasmine and you supported Jasmine. And we all know Jasmine's going to be one of the best moms out there for sure. And I can't wait to meet her little rascal. Steven, hurry it up.
Oh God, no! No, we are not ready for that.
Not ready for that. But I actually want to make a quick distinction. I don't know if my mom has kind of in the mood to say this, but that was actually not the case. So my mom is the way that she is, and I know this because she's told me a million times. But my mom is the way she is because she wasn't raised the way she raised me. She was raised in a lot stricter household. I mean, my grandmother is a Colombian woman that was raised by nuns in an orphanage in like rural Colombia. Like she is hardcore, and she raised my mom hardcore, really strict. And my mom had to grow up in that environment, and that affected her in particular ways. And she wanted to raise me kind of the polar opposite. She wanted to raise me where she wasn't as strict, where she was really trusting, where she let me do things even when I was a teenager, and she knew I was probably going out and doing something that wasn't too good, but she still like trusted me, and that's why we have such a close relationship, is because she trusted me. And so she always used to tell me, and I was saying this to Steven's mom the other day, she always used to tell me that I could tell her anything, even if I burned down a house. I don't know why that was her example, but she would always repeat it. Even if you burn down a house, you can tell me. You can be honest with me, and I will always be on your side. That you don't have to be afraid of getting in trouble with me, that I'm always going to support you and stuff. And I know that directly comes from the kind of opposite upbringing that she had, and how she wanted to raise a daughter where the relationship was at a deeper level and did have a deeper amount of respect.
I think coming from the old country too, Brittany, when they come from the old country, they have, they're set in their ways, and things have to be done a certain way. And her growing up in the orphanage, she's like a drill sergeant. When I was raised by a drill sergeant is what I was. And she was very, very strict. Just like,
no way, not Nana.
Yeah.
Not little Nana.
She might look, huggable and lovable and so cute.
She's like, Brittany, your hair.
But, and she is. Don't get me wrong. I love her to death. I say that with love because she is all of that. Mm-hmm. But I also wanted to raise Jasmine a little differently. Mm-hmm. And like she said, I wanted to always make her know that no matter what, you are respected. You may be a little person, but that's what you are. You're a little person. You're not a child. And a child should always be respected for who they are. And take the time to listen. So many parents don't listen to their children. And when they're trying to tell you something and, trying to say, hey, mom, this or that, and they're just too. I always took the time and I stopped what I was doing to listen because I knew that she was my little person. She was not like a child. I didn't look at her. I didn't look down on her in that way. And I say that because, that's just how some people are. And I don't like seeing that at all because that's just not way that
that is so beautiful and resonated so much with me because when I was a kid, I never felt like my voice was heard, ever. And then I was the girl in high school and in college and middle school who was just like loud and obnoxious and like would interrupt people when they talked and my teachers would always be like, she doesn't stop talking. And it was like, it was the only place I knew where I could talk and somebody cared, So that's super, super, super important. And that's awesome. And I think parents should know that. Jeanette, what would you tell the parents today about being a single mom and choosing to trust your child? Because I think that's another thing that I see parents do is they belittle their kid. Like millennials left and right are being called stupid and just a bunch of names. And I'm just like, do they know that we're kids? That they're kids and like they're supposed to be teaching us? Like, why are you just calling us stupid? You know what I mean?
I I completely agree. And it's like, do you realize that you brought this person into the world? Take the time. I would buy these CDs. I would have her working on these CDs at a very early age. I mean, we worked on everything. And all I can say to moms that are out there, even though you're a single mother, find the help. There's plenty of help out there. I, by the way, did not qualify for any of that help. No WIC, no nothing. I had to literally do it all on my own. But there are resources that are out there to help you. But at the same time, remember that your child is number one. I was not one of those parents hitting the club and leaving my child home alone. That wasn't me. I said, no, I'm not going to do the whole dating thing until she's a lot older, and there was a long time where I was single, because we were separated, me and my ex-husband at a very, when she was at a very young age. So for many years I was single, but she, and for a very long time, I always did it right from the beginning. So if anything, if I could tell other moms, do it from the beginning, even when they're little. And you don't think that they understand. You don't think that they don't get it. They do. Children absorb everything. They observe everything and they absorb everything. And for them to feel special, and they will grow with that confidence. Just like in her video where she's saying to her younger self, always remember, you are loved, you are smart. I love that. When I saw the video of a guy when he did that with his little girl, same thing in the mirror. You are smart, you are strong, no matter what. And that's how my mom raised me to always be strong. My dad too, just always be strong no matter what. So we had that strength big time, but it's just a matter of you taking the time and prioritizing what's more important to you. She was my number one. Hands down, she was my number one. She will always be my number one. And, I thank God for her. I thank God that she turned out to be who she is today. And quick story, when you were talking about things that you do, and I bet you, Brittany, you don't even know this, right?
Probably not.
But you want to talk about a great humanitarian. One time, I don't know, she was going to work. She's driving to work and she sees a guy on the side of the road begging for money. So she comes home really quick, drives home and says, Ma, guess what? I said, what? She says, there was a guy on the road. He's asking for money. But you know what? I know we have extra chicken and rice in the refrigerator, so I'm going to bring him some food. I said, you are? She says, yeah. She packed it up, brought it over to the guy, and he had his lunch for the day. So that's how much of a humanitarian she is. That's just how she thinks. And it blew me away when she did that. It blew me away completely, because not too many people would do that. When people look at people, she's worked with homeless people. She's seen that, just because you're homeless doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bum. These are people who have had lives, who have had careers, and who lost everything, their home or what have you. So she treats them like people too. Same thing. Right. And they are.
We're all human beings. That's my catchphrase.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. And that's the reason. Honestly, that's like the foundation of what Beautiful Broken is all about. Is that like we all have a story. We are all human beings. Like I'm so tired of people belittling others to make themselves feel better, when it's like, no, you're just lacking self-esteem. So why don't you work internally on your limiting beliefs that prevent you from believing in your own being, and then being a better person and helping that stranger, helping that person that needs that help, instead of, pointing the victim. And I think that's why me and Jasmine love each other as deeply as we do, is because we do come from completely two different backgrounds. We are very different in many ways, but when it comes to our hearts, when it comes to how we see the world, when it comes to loving humans, we're inseparable with that.
Yes.
Jasmine,
you gotta go ahead.
No, okay. I just wanted to know, Jasmine, so your mom always supported you. She always put you first. Was that something that you always knew, or did you have to discover it, or was the absence of your dad, did that really affect you?
Whoa, those are a lot of questions.
You can handle it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go backwards, because you mentioned my dad, and I definitely think that in that respect, yes, I always knew that my mom supported me, because physically and like logically, my mom was the one that was more of an active parent and actively in my life. I mean, I've always had a relationship with my dad, and I've talked to him, but as for like the person who like would wake me up in the morning, put me on the school bus, like besides my Nana, that was always my mom. So I mean, in that respect, yes, but and I know we're gonna talk about this eventually when it comes to my adversities and the things that I went through, but just maybe like this is a good segue.
Let's go.
When I was in high school, I went through some serious anxiety and depression, and my mom was there for me through and through the entire time. But when you're a teenager and you're trying to find yourself and in a dark space mentally, and have all of these things going on in your head, and, you know, like trying to be independent, trying to swim, even though you really don't know how. I didn't necessarily realize that my mom was on my side until probably I went to college and looked back and said, oh, shoot. Oh, man. Sorry. I should have probably been a little nicer to her when I was 17 and had all that rage built up inside of me. But yeah, so it definitely, I mean, hindsight, it's 2020, and especially like you can't really teach people that. You just have to live through it. You can't really go to every teenager and be like, listen to your parents, or like your parents are looking for your best interest, because in our independent, like rebellious, go-getter, angsty brains, we're like, no, they don't understand, they don't get it.
Cool enough.
Yeah, they're not cool, they don't get it. Yeah, for sure. So I definitely had to be reflective of that in later years. It took some time, but I'm glad that I did, for sure.
See, this is what I love about being in the years that we live today, is because like your children are going to see this interview with your mom. You know what I mean? Like they're going to be able to look back and be like, look at grandma and mama.
Oh my goodness.
And they're going to be able to put your, you know, whatever you have a child, whether it's 35, 40, but they're going to be able to put that mom and then this Jasmine together and be like, wow, that was my mom when she was 25 or 26, because her birthday is Friday, everybody. Jasmine, happy birthday.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, do you mind if I kind of start talking about what I went through? Sure. Okay, so as like I've been talking about and my mom kind of reflected on, I've always been like a super social person, somebody that like loves humans, loves interacting with people since I was little. And like academically, I always really succeeded. But I think definitely when I got to like freshman year in high school, I started realizing like, wow, homework, you actually have to like study. Or actually, I don't even think I realized that until I was in college. But what was happening was the work was getting harder, and when I was little, it came naturally to me, and I didn't really have to work at it. And then I got to the years where like, no, you're not just going to automatically know like all the entire Declaration of Independence. Like you have to study. And for me, I did not understand that. I also was dealing with undiagnosed ADHD, attention deficit disorder, and I had no idea. My mom didn't know. So my brain moves at like 1,000 like things a minute. I'm always thinking a bunch of different things. When I'm doing something, I always have to be doing something else. Like right now, I'm like fidgeting with my hands, because in order for me to focus on this conversation, I have to be doing two things at once. I don't know, like that's just how my brain works. When I was in high school, I didn't realize that. So the work was getting harder. I didn't know that I had ADD, so I was not doing well in school. I was really struggling, but I didn't understand why, and I started really taking it in on myself and saying like, well, maybe you're stupid, maybe you just can't do this. You know, like a lot of the things that unfortunately we tell ourselves, but when you're that young and still trying to figure out your identity, it can be even more detrimental. And then on top of that, specifically, I mean, I wouldn't know this unless I had a therapist, but my therapist helped me really realize that all of those things were going on, but there was some catalyst that happened. I took a summer trip to Chile, and I lived with a family for a month, and that was a beautiful experience. But before that experience, literally like the day or 2 days before, I saw my dad for the first time in 8 years. I hadn't seen my dad in person until there was a family reunion up in Massachusetts, and he came up. He also brought my half-sister, who I met for the first time, so that was obviously something. In my brain, I was fine. Like, that didn't affect me. It was great. And then I went on the trip. But I also went on a trip, and I lived with a family that was a lot better off financially. So I basically left my house. I mean, we haven't talked too much about this, but we grew up low income. So I grew up in a really small house, like with not a lot of like extra fancy resources. For Christmas I would get one or like a couple gifts. I didn't really grow up with like a lavish lifestyle. I grew up knowing that we were poor and that we struggled, and that was like something that I actively knew. So then I went to Chile, and for a month I spent with a family that had a bunch of money. Their house was huge. I lived, like, they had the mom, the dad, the 2 sisters, a restaurant. And I had the time of my life. I made so many friends. I lived such a beautiful life. And then I came back home, which for people who are watching, they might be familiar with the term called culture shock. And that's when you are in a particular culture. If you're in a country, for a completely different country, in a even different season. In Chile, it was winter. And I came back to the United States in the middle of the summer in July to my house that is small, that doesn't have a lot of money, and left all my friends, so that was definitely a catalyst, all of those things together. And then I started my junior year, which is one of the hardest, maybe the hardest year in high school, between choosing colleges, SATs, all of that stuff going on. So I got into a really dark spot. I remember, and I don't know if they're watching right now, but if not, I'm going to send them a link. But I had some very strong adult influences in my life besides my mom and my grandmother. But I had a mentor, Miss Goldstein, who was an English teacher, but she was a mentor because I was a part of a particular program. And then the woman who ran that program was Miss Regan. And so I was really close to her as well. And I remember one day, Miss Regan really reflected, or actually maybe this was after I came out of it, but she reflected on the fact that I started wearing colors again when I was getting better. But when I was going through like the deepest, darkest part, not only was I not wearing colors, I wasn't showering. I remember I would blog about it a little bit, like on Tumblr. It would be interesting to try to like log back into my Tumblr and find some of those posts. But I remember I had documented that I had gone 15 days without taking a shower. I remember I would wear just like a random t-shirt, like, and Sophie shorts, like, sweatpants, flip-flops. And I loved color. I loved fashion. I love art. And I stopped trying. I stopped combing my hair. I stopped taking a shower. I stopped dressing in nice clothes. And it really took the people closest in my life, between my mom, Miss Goldstein, and Miss Regan, to really say, hey, Jasmine, what's going on? Like, not only are you not wearing bright colors, but I stopped wanting to interact with my friends. And as a social person, that was very stark for my mom and Miss Goldstein and Miss Regan to notice. I remember in history class, the teacher had let us choose our own seats. She said, like, for this semester, I'm going to let you guys sit wherever you wanted. And I remember, I don't know if they're watching right now, but Kayla and Cassie they were my best friends at the time. And I remember actively choosing a seat that was as far away from them as possible. I chose a seat in the corner by myself. I did not want to interact with people. To me, it didn't bring me any joy, and I think it reminded me of all the things that I thought were wrong with me and stuff. So I know, like, there was a lot of things that came up that people noticed about me and said, like, well, Jasmine, like, what's going on? But for my mom, what really was the breaking point was one day that I looked at her and I said, I don't know what the purpose of life is anymore, something like that, right?
Yeah, because I had asked her, do you love your life? What are your feelings when it comes to life? Because I wanted to gauge that and see if she was actually thinking suicidal thoughts. And I'm like, what's going on? Talk to me. And when she said, I don't feel suicidal, but, you know, I don't know what my purpose is here in life. And I said, all right, and we're going to like get this together. You and I, let's make a plan. Let's do this because you cannot be feeling this way. There is so much to life and you have so much to live, you know, and we just took it from there step by step. Luckily, you know, we were able to find a good counselor for her, get her in therapy. And that was, you know, between Miss Goldstein, Miss Regan,
Miss Myers, O'Malley,
yeah. All of them, we all worked collaboratively together, and we were able to finally get her out of that zone that she was in. It's so hard for you to see someone with such a great personality, such, you know, all these great things, and all of a sudden they don't want to take a shower, they don't want to get out of bed, and that was so hard for me. I would cry at work, and I would, I would cry all the time, but I wouldn't show her because I didn't want her to see me crying about it, because I knew that she was going through something, right? And everybody would always say, Jasmine, what's wrong with you? Jasmine, what's wrong with you? And so she just kept saying, don't ask me what's wrong with me. And I'm like, Lord, if this is something that she just has to go through, you know, I'm going to find the help. So I was there with her, and we talked to the counselors, we talked to the therapist, we were there together. And I said, we're going to get through this. Plain and simple, we're going to get through this. This is just a time that you're going through. I don't know what it is, but you're going to get through this. But 11th grade and senior year were very difficult before she went off to college. My heart was broken. It was broken because she left, and it was kind of like, oh, thank God I'm gone type of thing, or thank God I'm leaving. That's how I felt that she felt towards the situation. And I'm like, oh my God, this is my only daughter. But not only that, because of what she was going through with the depression and everything, I'm like, how is she going to handle that her first year in college, her first semester in college, never mind the first year. But so those were some really, really difficult times for us, and we managed together. We did it together.
For sure.
I'm speechless. I'm gonna sob when we get off this thing. I'm letting you know that right now. I was like fighting. I was like, I'm about to ugly cry, like full force ugly cry. Oh my gosh. Okay, so for all you out there, you have to understand that me and Jasmine became friends, which was super weird. Super weird. It didn't make sense, right? Like sometimes the universe just puts people in your life when you don't even realize it's the time and it's the place and it's now. But she went through her lowest of low, which honestly, until tonight, she's never really shared with me. And I met her. I always knew her, but we weren't close. But when we became best friends, it was like 2 months before senior year, 2012. And then we became super close the summer where you shouldn't randomly find people in high school that you become best friends with. And then 4 years of college, like the 4 years of college where like you should say goodbye to people you never spoke to in high school. I found this beautiful human at it was like the yard pass, and I caught it, and then we became inseparable. It makes no sense, but what's beautiful about it is like, Jasmine, you've saved my life so many times. There's been so many times where I've hit rock bottom, and it's crazy, Jasmine, because now it makes so much sense to me, because like she was always like my therapist. Like whenever something went wrong, whenever I felt unloved, whenever I was down on myself, I called Jasmine, and Jasmine always knew what to say. She always knows what to say. She always knows how to make you feel better. And I never understood why. And my heart is like, oh my God, she was there.
Well, honestly, that is like, I think the thing that I want like people to understand the most, whether like people are watching, know me or not. Like I know there might be some people on here who went to high school with me and are like, wait a minute, what? Like I never thought Jasmine went through this, or there might be people who have never met me before. But something that I definitely have had people ask me, and even Brittany has said, like, how are you so positive all the time, blah, blah, blah. I think, like, the biggest thing that we can debunk in this society and life is, like, for Like, if you use me as an example, I was not out of the womb just positive and everything is sunshine and rainbows. Yes, I grew up really social with a mom that supported me and all of those things, but I still went through some deep, dark stuff. And I have done a lot of work and am still doing a lot of work to maintain a healthy life and lifestyle. Anything that you see me posting on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, it's not that it's fake by any means. Obviously, I want to share more of the positive things in my life than the negative things in my life. But I just hope that people don't ever look at anybody who comes off as sunshine and rainbows and think that they are just like that, or that they just force that, and that they haven't been through tough things. I work every single day to be positive, to express gratitude, to reroute my negative thoughts into my negative unproductive thoughts into positive productive thoughts. Like, every single day, the work that I do is not easy, and the work that all of us do is not easy. And that's what breaks my heart, is when people see people that are happy or that are positive and they think that it's easy. Because I think that's what happened to me, is when I was in high school, I saw all these other girls that were beautiful and they had boyfriends, and I had never had a boyfriend, and I felt ugly and I felt not smart, and it just seemed like everybody else was going through this easy. Like, high school was easy to everybody else, but to me it was hard, and that is not true. We just don't talk about it enough, and that's why obviously Brittany has Beautiful Broken. This is the whole point, is that everybody goes through stuff, but society tells us it's taboo to talk about our dark spots. It's taboo to talk about therapy. That's why I talk about therapy so frequently, because I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have not only therapy, but the specific therapist that I have. We have a deep connection where we work together so well. And specifically, I wanted to just go back to this, because when my mom knew I was in a dark spot, she said, all right, like, let's try therapy. And she found me a therapist that was horrible, literally horrible. This woman I told her something that happened in my life, and she said, okay, let's do this exercise. And she pulls out a pillow, and she says, okay, I want you to channel the anger that you felt in that moment and punch this pillow. And mind you, I'm like 15, and I'm looking at this like lady who was an older lady who was completely out of touch with me and like with young, she should not be working with young children. Maybe she's a great therapist for like a different population, but for my age and what I was going through, did not help me at all. I remember like I just punched it like out of pity for this lady. I felt really bad that she was trying really hard to help me, but was really bad at it. And then another thing that really, like, I knew it was a wrong fit was I shared something personal with her about my mom, and I could tell. And mind you, I've been to years of schooling for human services, social work, whatever, and now I know this professionally. But even as a 15-year-old girl, I knew that this woman was in the wrong, because when I told her something that my mother did, I could see her actively judge my mother for it. She made a face and she made a comment at like, what? Or really? She did that? Blah, blah, blah. And I left that meeting or that therapy session. I said, Mom, I'm done. I'm not going back to this lady. Because as much as I was angry at my mom and I had all resentments for like different things, or because I was a teenager, you know, all that stuff built up, I still had my connection with my mother, and I can talk crap about my mother, but nobody else can make a comment about my mom. And as a therapist, as a clinician, as a human service worker, you should never, ever, ever practice like that. So, but anyways, so then I went to Guatemala the year after I went to Chile. I did another program where I went to Guatemala, and when I came back, one of the first things my mom said to me, like that first day, was, I found you a new therapist. And I had stopped going to therapy for months, and I was like, wait, what? And she's like, I did my research. I already met with this lady while you were in Guatemala, and she's great. I think you're going to love her. And I swear, that was August 2011. And I still, to this day, see that same therapist. Tomorrow at 1 p.m., I'll have my Zoom call with that same therapist who has really worked with me specifically on a type of therapy called CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. So that is what I was talking about before, rerouting negative, unproductive thoughts into positive, productive thinking. So for example, if like I try to think of like what I would have done if I knew how to like use my brain this way when I was going through my struggles like freshman year or sophomore year. Maybe I would have never gotten here if my brain worked this way. So basically, say I didn't do a science homework or whatever. Instead of the teacher coming to me and saying like, oh, like, why didn't you do your science homework? And me saying, oh my God, I didn't do my science homework. I'm a piece of crap. I'm not worthy. All of these things, and falling into a negative spiral. What I practice now and what I've been practicing for the past 8 years is pausing in that moment and instead of going down the negative spiral, thinking positive, productive thoughts. So yes, I didn't do my science homework. Yes, that is bad, like not great, but how can I make it better? Because falling into a spiral about why this is so horrible doesn't make the situation better. What does make it better is saying, okay, well, maybe I can talk to the teacher about it and she'll give me another chance. Or maybe I just have to forget about this assignment, but on the next one, I'm going to try harder. On the next one, I'm going to try to get it in on time. You know, like really changing those negative, unproductive thoughts to positive, productive thoughts.
Right, and that is not easy. Guys, we have 5 minutes left. I'm so upset. I want you guys to keep talking. But before we end this, I made a flashback for you guys. I want to show you guys all at home Jasmine's journey from when she was a baby up to now. So we're going to play that real quick, and you're going to see all the beautiful characters she's been telling you guys about.
Aww.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Obviously, what you have to say needs to be heard everywhere around the world. So anyone watching this, please share, please like, because hearts like this are rare to find, and I'm so lucky to call you my best friend.
Oh, I love you, Britt. Thank you so much for having us. We'll have to do a part 2 one day.
Yeah, we will. In studio, because we're going back to studio. I don't know when, but we will.
Awesome. That would be great.
All right, I'm going to wrap up the show.
And you will always be family to us.
I just want to hug you.
We love you.
Love you. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in tonight. Beautiful Broken is just all about, I'm going to keep saying it until people start believing it. Your story matters, whether you've gone through so much adversity or you've gone through none. Stop comparing who you are with other people. It's your story. It's your name. You were born with 2 names or 3, however many your parents gave you. Okay, there's a lot of names out there all of a sudden. I don't know. But, whatever name you were given is the name that you got. So stop comparing, stop judging, and honestly, people, just please start loving yourself, because you can't love another human until you love you exactly as you are. And even if you're a little messed up, we all are beautiful and we're all a little broken. So just remember that. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.